Hello and welcome to the Economy Dev Diary rework for Rosbach. We were told yesterday we were going to get an extra Tinto Talks this week, and here it is. And I've read through it. Oh, they cooked with this one. They truly have cooked with this one, and we're just going to get into it. Let's have a look. Right. So, big meaty changes is very appropriate. It's accurate. Definitely, this is a massive rework, and it's coming in a free patch, which people will complain about Paradox's DLC policy until the cows come home, but I think they're doing a pretty good job here. Anyway, there's been a fair bit of complaints about some aspects of the ecosystem. They tried to address as many of them as possible. So, economy differentiation. First of all, they've tried to make the markets more differentiated, so not every market ends up the same. One key thing here is that you now have a local production efficiency bonus and penalties depending on if there are enough input goods locally in the market or not. So he has a Venetian market here. It can't support all the wool required locally in the market, so the efficiency is lowered, but if they had a surplus, they could have benefited. So if they have only 80% of the wool supplied locally in the Venetian market, so having the sheep farms, I forget what the actual building's called, but wool RGOs, if you had more of those, you would get a production efficiency buff on the wool spinners, but if you were importing, then you're going to get an efficiency malus, which, while I like the idea of, if I have it locally in the market, then I'm having a better time, but it makes me think this is a little bit of a nerf to trade. It makes it less important to... I mean, it means that I would like a more diversified market, and I want one big market. I assume that the supply here is impacted by the market attraction, or I've forgotten what the name of the thing is called. The not market attraction, but the ability to get the goods into the market center. I'm forgetting all the terms. I apologize for that. I assume that comes into account, so not having just one large market, so you can have all of the goods you require in the same place, is the viable strategy, because that would be kind of naff. But I do worry something like, say, England's historical famous trade relationship with the Low Countries, where England had an abundance of wool. It would sell that wool to the Dutch, the Flemish, whatever. They would turn that into silks and cloth and then trade that back into England. And that was a very lucrative trade system that they had going on in this time period. Are they both going to get huge malices to their production efficiency because neither of them are producing the goods in those buildings locally, right? England's producing all the wool and shipping it to the the market in Flanders, and in that way, Flanders is going to have a massive malice to their wool spinners guilds. And then when it goes back into England and they're getting cloth and using cloth in some building of those buildings, going to have bad production efficiency because of that. A little worried about that one, but we'll see how it plays out. Some goods were too low in demand that should be higher, and some goods were way overproduced from RGOs. They've rebalanced goods demands from POPs significantly, particularly for fur, coal, and salt. Marketplaces also need salt now. Wool has dropped in price by half, but all buildings that use it now require twice as much. Okay, that's cool. I like that. Prices now take twice as long to adapt to new target prices and make imports impact prices less to differentiate the markets more in value. Speaking of trade, many produced goods use less capacity to transport, and many raw materials now require more capacity to ship. I like all of this. This sounds really, really good. I'm mostly still concerned about the UI that you use to interact with the trading system, because that is, I think, the reason I don't enjoy playing with it. And, I'll just click automate trade because it's just simpler. But hopefully that gets some kind of overhaul in Rosbach. If not, hopefully it gets an overhaul soon. Because it's just clunky. It's still very, very clunky. Anyway, estates and the economy. People are going to be buzzing about this one, I'm sure. First of all, they've renamed potential tax base to wealth, as it makes the new design much more clear. They've also made it so that the economical base of a country is 50% of total wealth instead of 75% of tax base. Okie dokie. So we can see here the wealth of Nagasink is 5 ducats. Tax base due to the control is 14.79. So, only 14% of that is into the tax base. Tax income from the location, how much you're getting for that based on how much you can tax the estates. But if we have a look down here, in this location, the nobles are getting 4.2 ducats. Basically, most of the rest of the control that you don't have, the money is going to the estate. As some of us have complained about, a lot of money that was lost due to the lack of control. It's changing in 1.1 Rosback, and the lost tax income from the lack of control now goes to the estates directly. This is something that people have been complaining about for almost a year now, since, since the dev diary was talking about how tax base worked, which I don't know when that date was, but this has been something that people have been complaining about since that dev diary. And now it's being changed, and now it's going to be exactly as people had demanded, wanted, asked for, requested. No lost money, no magic money, no money going off into the void. Personally, I wasn't too pushed about it. I thought, you are the epitome of the state. You are playing the state in general. You're not exactly like the king. You're not exactly a member of parliament, government, whatever. You are not going to be able to track every penny within your country, and I felt, if you have low control, then you are less able to track that money. But I'm also totally fine with this. This is awesome. Having the control matter more. Like, control was already massively impactful, but now your estates are going to be a lot more wealthy, I think. If they're getting all of the money that you are not able to control, the estates are going to be a much bigger player in EU5 going forward, for sure. Balancing the estates is a bit more interesting as well, as estates with high power will now have reduced satisfaction, requiring even more benefits. You know how, like, yesterday I said that I was more interested in centralization nowadays? Now I'm even more interested in centralization and high crown power because, oh boy, I don't want the estates to be, all powerful and up in my grill. That sounds rough. Estates now keep a bit of money around before investing in buildings, and the amount of wealth they have impacts their power directly. So if you have low control, you'll have powerful estates, reducing your crown power and abilities even further. Certainly a lot more of a balancing act than we had before. We have here the Venetian Cittadini, which is their burghers estate. 43,000 ducats is quite a lot. They're making 378 ducats every month. Their income after taxes, the income from the lack of control, the amount of trade money they make, the amount that they get from selling food. They're paying money to the tithe, and then the pops themselves are purchasing a bunch of stuff as well. So very cool indeed. Speaking of powerful estates, the nobility have got a few extra things as well. First of all, they have a harsher scale on how much their power impacts how much you can tax them. So that makes sense. Powerful nobles don't want to get taxed as much. It makes sense. Secondly, they've also introduced peasant enfranchisement, where depending on the serfdom versus free subjects, control, location ranks, estate privileges, and more, the incomes that would be going to the peasants would instead go into the nobles, the bloody thieves. This creates a huge diversity in how countries work. Peasant estates try to build free villages when they can afford it, and the nobles have buildings reducing it locally where possible. So we have a comparison between Hungary and Sweden at the start of the game, one with strong nobles and serfs, the other with free peasants. Yeah, this is very brown, this is very green. So the peasants' estate is going to be a little bit more powerful in Sweden than in Hungary. Yeah, that's really, really cool. That's really, really cool. But that's not all, because control and proximity also getting Massive overhauls. While control and proximity worked mostly fine, it had some drawbacks in that every country only ever had one hub with high proximity and control. First of all, they've nerfed rivers down from 10 cost to 12 cost for proximity, and marginally reduced a fair amount of sources for proximity reductions. They've changed bailiffs from being a proximity source, but instead they now give 20% local control in a location. If this is... I have a location that has 50 control, and I build a bailiff, and now it is 70 control, absolutely fantastic. I love that. But you can only have as many bailiffs as you have towns and cities. So Italy is going to be really happy with the amount of bailiffs that they can build. And I think it also kind of encourages a system of, oh, I've increased my, maritime presence or my road network, so now I can delete this bailiff that's close to my capital, and I'm going to build a new one that's a little bit further away, and then you're kind of moving the bailiffs out in a ring from your capital as you expand your country, which seems pretty cool to me. Some nice gameplay implications there. The game will track if a location has a road network reaching your capital or not. This network takes straits into account, so countries like Venice, Ottomans, and Denmark are not screwed over. The old bonus for having a road in a location is reduced in impact on the development growth to a fifth of what it was before, and it's lost the growth to institutions. However, being on the capital connected road network gives the former bonus and also the local monthly control gain. Unless roads have gotten a little bit more of an overhaul, then I don't see this impacting too many countries, because I feel like everyone has roads everywhere within like 150 years of the game. For example, I've got a game here that is in 1434. So we've been playing 100 years. This was a multiplayer game. I was playing as Tuscany. But if we have a look at the road network, look at Bohemia. Every single location covered by a road. France, everything in the north covered by a road. Roads are pretty much spreading everywhere. So I don't think it is too much of an impact at this point. But obviously this is, this game was played back in 107, I want to say. So things may change, or I mean, they definitely will change. But that's cool. That's cool. I like this idea. Being on the Capital Road network. Really cool idea. They've also added 2 buildings that will function as additional mini capitals, giving an additional 80 proximity to a location. They are limited in amount by advances, country rank privileges, and reforms. I imagine something like, Empire will get 4, then Kingdom will get 3, Duchy will get 2, County will get 1, maybe County gets 0, something like that. But yeah, 80 proximity sounds freaking incredible. Is it proximity source, or is it just 80 proximity? Because I feel like it should be source. Hopefully that will be clarified. Local governor can be built in any city that has a connected road network to the capital, while the naval governor can be built in any port city in the same continent or adjacent subcontinent that is on an isolated landmass. Spain would build one in Antwerp or Messina if they're naval-oriented enough. Antwerp obviously being in the Low Countries, so we're talking like a future that generally doesn't happen in the game, to be fair. So, proximity map for Castile in the multiplayer game with local governors in Toledo, Cordoba, and Spain. It does feel like it is source, right? We've got the capital up here in the north. That does feel like, that feels sourcey. That feels very sourcey. And then Sevilla is obviously got the naval governor, I think. But actually, on the same continent or adjacent subcontinent that's on an isolated landmass. So no, that's definitely not the naval governor. Those are just regular old governors, local governors. But the reason I had the game open with specifically on Spain is to show you what the control looks like in a game in 1434. Obviously, the capital has been moved down to Sevilla because that just makes sense. But this amount green, everything else completely useless. Whereas we're looking at this Spain, this is so much more healthy. This is so much more... It feels more realistic. It feels more viable. makes Spain not feel kind of awful to play control-wise. I mean, Castile has so many buffs and bonuses, and they're very, very strong, so it's not like the end of the world. But I also now feel like with this, I don't have to move my capital to Sevilla and then, forced to conquer Portugal because of, really good control to Sevilla all up this coast. It feels way more viable. I am very excited to play around with those changes. Onto food, though. They've added a system for food decay, which depends heavily on climate and where winters and other types of bad weather increase the decay. Hostile armies in a province will increase the decay dramatically while reducing production further. They've also doubled the population growth from how much food you have stored and changed the logic to prioritize for starving provinces to buy food from the market before provinces that are just building up their stockpiles. The buying price depends heavily on the size of the market stockpile and how much food is consumed in the market. They've also removed the food production penalty from towns and cities to the limit to RGO levels is already limiting enough, and nobles, burghers, and clergy eat far more than peasants do. Okay, Italy enjoys this change significantly. They are very happy with this change. Italy was, especially pre-release, Italy was absolutely screwed for food. Now this feels so much nicer for them for sure. And obviously Novara in Italy, they're choosing that as an example. So we've got production of 20. Novara, I'm pretty sure Novara is a city. I know this is a game that's in progress, but let's find out. Novara. Yeah, it's a town. I don't know if it starts as a town or maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't remember. But food here, I mean, it's pretty low. It's pretty low. It's breaking even. But again, that's a game that's in progress. But this is so much more information as well on this screen for sure. Very nice to see. Also having a productivity percentage is quite nice. Raise levies, lowering it down, the development, seeing all of the different things going into it is awesome. So next week they're going to be showing off new content on Wednesday, and then St. Dave will have new graphics on Friday. Looking forward to that. But yeah, I've already given this love. I absolutely deserves it. Absolutely deserves it. Because this is a phenomenal dev diary. Are there any dev responses? I think there are a few, so let's have a gander and read at some of these. How is it the estate income after taxes? Oh, just maths stuff. Add all green incomes, reduce the red expenses. Okay, I guess the maths worked out. Are you worried about how they could make control more trivial to manage? Will it risk bigger countries essentially getting a buff? It's a little bit, but the actual numbers for proximity propagation is being tweaked as well. I assume this is about the local governor situation. I mean, I think Spain just got a massive buff from that, which is interesting. What happens with local governor present in one location, for example, Toledo, then the player changes the court or the capital to that location. Technically, they stack, but it can never be over 100, so it's just a very expensive building doing nothing. Fair enough. Are there going to be any changes to limit the amount of towns and cities, not beyond the crippling effect on raw materials? In weird, tiny breakaway states and insane AI peace deals are getting fixed. There's been a lot of work there. Cool. Portugal exists as another player. Fair enough. Wouldn't it be better if it was destroyed, the building? Having the odd building called local governor in your capital? Not sure. Spending about 500 gold in 2 years every time you rotate capital is fun. That's a fair point as well. Confusion has become income from lack of control. Trade, food, and tithe all have their own border under income after taxes. Makes it look like those items somehow add up to the income after taxes amount. Tooltip shenanigans. Okay. Fair enough. Whatever. I'm curious, what are people thinking about this? Because for me, personally, this is probably the best dev diary we've had in quite some time. I am very excited. I'm very excited to play around with these changes. I love the change to control and proximity. I love the idea of the local governor. The road system, I'm really excited about. And obviously, the taxes being lost from lack of control no longer being a thing is going to make some people absolutely elated and, yeah, exciting stuff. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you want to keep up to date with all E5 news and updates, throw me a subscription. It's free. It's not like a Twitch subscription. This one's just, you know, I want to watch what this guy posts. Anyway, I'm gonna go and theorycraft and be excited until we get Ross back, because I'm gonna go ask Johan if I can have some early access, because it sounds absolutely incredible. Anyway, thanks all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.